show to. And we have Hal down there, Dale Green, Bob Chard, and Hal Desilva.
Yep.
And you know who I am. I'm Frank Williams, the Rebel Rouser. Anyway, we have so much to talk about. We're going to go right on to our second show and give you some more information of why the state of Jefferson would be important to you. So where do we leave off at here?
Well, let's continue talking about what the federal government is really supposed to be doing. And on our way up here, we were talking about the interstate system, and that is one of the things that they do. Because it's mentioned in Article 1, Section 8, post offices and postal roads.
Right.
And also national defense. So the interstate system was set up for defense, basically. But it also is for commerce. And that is one of the articles in Article 1, Section 8, is commerce. So that fits right together. That's the thing that the federal government should be doing, right there. But most things are not in the Constitution, and they're not supposed to be doing it.
Well, I can tell you, we had a project here. It's been going on for 15 years. You might have heard about it. It's Jordan Cove, the LNG project. And we're exporting LNG, natural gas.
Oh, that, I have heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, and last I heard last year, there was $300 million, and that's because your government override and all these regulatory agencies coming after you time and time again. You can't do this, and it make you jump through all the hoops. And they had the funny thing about it, they'd all been approved for import.
Yeah.
Now that you're going to export, you got to go through all these hoops, and the environmentalists come on you, and they chew you apart, and it just keeps going on and on. So that's just a good example there. $300 million. What could we have done with that?
Well, we need to restore common sense. Some of these things that they're coming down with is just way out of line. We're not against protecting the environment. We definitely want to protect our environment. But there's got to be some constraints put on it someplace. And I believe it should be left up to the state to determine their own land use and how it's going to be utilized and controlled, so we don't get into an environmental mess. So right now, the federal agents coming up with regulations that really don't apply. To their way of thinking, it does, because they're thinking on a bigger scale. When they shut down the forest because of a spotted owl, I mean, come on, where's the common sense in that? Yeah, we want to protect the common owl, the spotted owl, but at the sacrifice of all of our liberty, that we cannot go into our forest anymore, we cannot harvest our trees anymore. That's way out of control. And this is the biggest problem we're having with the federal government. And like we said earlier, all federal government is not bad. We need federal government. We're not against that. We just want to be realistic and show us that, hey, if you're going to lead us correctly in the Constitution. Don't lead us down the road that you've done already, because now we're at a point where we're in almost total collapse of the whole nation. Our financial system is broken so bad, I don't think we can even repair it. And there's so many other areas of financial structures that are being developed, which I have no idea what they really are, but some people say they're good, like the Bitcoin or whatever that is, things like that, and I'm not sure how that all works. So I'm not an expert in finances, but common sense needs to prevail. And one way we can do that is get back to the Constitution. Let's look at all these issues again, and let's say, okay, states have their rights. Bob Chard wrote a wonderful article all about states' rights. And if anybody needs a copy, you get a hold of Bob and he'll be glad to get you one. And that spells out a lot of things in there that we need to have as a state of Jefferson, that we can control our government, both federal and local. So when the state of Jefferson comes up and says, okay, we need to do this, guess what? There's no legislative body that's going to automatically do that anymore. Every county in the state of Jefferson has an equal vote. So when that legislature meets, every county will say yes or no, how they want this program to be implemented in the state of Jefferson. Now that's awesome. And it used to be that way. We used to have such a program. But like you said earlier, Reynolds versus Sims case is a court case. They went against the Constitution by creating a senatorial district. Now that was horrible. That created a mob rule right away. I mean, so now the poor rural communities go, wait a minute, don't we belong to the state? Don't we have a voice? Not anymore, because now they took the representatives from that county and gave it all up to the big cities. So now we got another disparity, because now we have a metropolitan area that has very little to do with the rural area. Two different mythologies. One wants this, one wants that. The one with the power is forcing the small ones, the rural counties, to pay for what they want. And I think that's totally wrong. That's not a fair system for a state. It's fair for that county. And if that county wants all these things and they want to pay for it themselves, have a good day, that's what you should do. But don't make the rest of all the poor rural communities that don't have that kind of funding to pay for their likes and dislikes.
Well, I'd like to give you something you might know or might not know about the spotted owl we was talking about a minute ago. That shut down between 2,000 and 2,500 meals in four northwest states. And it just devastated all these kids coming out of high school, go ahead and work for the summer so they'd have funds for college. That was gone. We had 1,200 people left here when Weyerhaeuser shut down the mill. And there was 3,000 houses empty. And everybody in Salem just sit there in their houses. They didn't do nothing for us. What did they do for Southern Oregon? Nothing. Zero. Zilch.
What you say is true, because when I was in college, I supported myself by working in a mill that no longer exists.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's a renewable resource. This can go on forever, with a little common sense and good planning. Our forest is wonderful. We have a great forest. Oh, I should say we had, until they let it burn down to nothing, and now it's devastating. So now here we are scratching our heads, oh my God, now they're forcing us by taking away our resources.
Well, I tell you, I'm probably glad I'm not a logger. It was good on a logging show where somebody's tied on a tree up there, because I'm going to tell you, you got 5 minutes to get down, and I'm going to be hollering timber.
Yeah, it's on the ground.
Exactly.
On the ground, and I'd make sure all the cameras are gone. All the cameras are shut off.
1 or 2 trees here and there, no problem. But when you're demanding that all the stuff be stopped, that's not realistic. That isn't realistic at all.
So we actually have an answer to all that in the state of Jefferson. And this is what it is. Have you ever heard of the equal footing doctrine? No. Equal footing doctrine. Nobody has. Equal footing doctrine is when the original 13 colonies formed the United States, if they were the original 13 states, they looked to the west and they said, boy, there's a lot of land out there. There's undoubtedly going to be some more states come in as time goes on. Of course, they were way right. And so they said, are we going to allow these new states to come in as equal to us or lesser than us? So they talked it over among themselves and they decided equal. They can come in as equal with us. So let me ask you this question. How many acres of BLM land are in any of the original 13 states? That's right, 0. So how many acres of the National Forest land are in the 13 states? No, it's not. It's some. 9 states have none, and the other 4 states have some. Less than 4%, I believe. So it's almost nothing, really. So we want that same status. They said we could have that status of being equal with what they've got. And we want what they've got, which is no government lands within the state. Those public lands, they call them public lands because they are, those public lands were supposed to be given to the states when they asked for them. Well, I guess we haven't done a good job of asking for them. However, Utah has. See, we in Oregon have 53% of our lands in the state of Oregon is federally controlled. People say, well, they're federally owned. No. They do not own those lands.
Sure, mine.
That's exactly right. They are controlled by the BLM and the Forest Service, okay? But go back to Utah. Utah, they made a law. They went through the legislative body and the governor signed it, called the Federal Lands Transfer Act, Federal Lands Transfer Act, to take effect December 31st, 2014. Well, they submitted it to the federal government before that date was up. And guess what the federal government said?
After Honeywood with it?
That's just about right. They ignored them. That's what the federal government does. If they don't like your policies, they ignore you and make you go to court. And if you're other than a state, they probably bankrupt you trying to fight them. And that's the way I think that they operate, is they just ignore you and make you go to court and deplete your assets trying to fight them. But Utah is preparing right now to, I forgot to mention, but anyway, they're getting ready to do the lawsuit. But they are 71% federal lands within it. Now, when we become a state, we have the right, with equal footing doctrine, to take those lands and put them in state hands. We have the right to do that. We will do that. Now it's state controlled. We don't have to ask somebody 3,000 miles away on how to manage these lands. Now, we want to sustainably log it. We want to get some logging back again. So, and then we want the ranchers to be able to go out and graze their cattle, sustainably, of course. And we want some miners to get back to work and mining, because they've shut all those things down, the federal government.
Well, you know, we have the ONC, we have the same right here, Coos County and Curry County and
Jefferson.
Douglas County. We all have that ONC.
Yes, we do.
And this wagon road land, I don't know if that goes
Yeah.
into there or not. And they just been managing it. That's
Yes.
why they've been watching the trees grow, and now they've got these recreation people come in. Say, well, we need that for recreation, so we can go out and watch the birds, or do a walk path, or have a path to walk on. How, you know, it's just like our bicycle paths along the highway. How many times do you see somebody riding a bike? They have somebody come through, some Portlanders once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure.
That's another whole ball of wax. With that bicycle on the highways, on the roadways, those roads are not designed. You're talking about an individual on a little bicycle contraption. And I love bicycles. I used to do a lot of bike, but I would never ride it on any of the public roads. It's just too darn dangerous when you got a 4,000-pound vehicle traveling at 65 miles an hour. Boom, you know, you don't have a chance. And there's so many in the news where people are being hit by these vehicles. And to share the road concept it just boggles my mind. They can take, if they're going to do something like that, they need to have a separate pathway away from the traffic for those bicycles to travel on. That would be the correct thing to do. I agree, you can't do it in every location, but in the future, plan for that. And get these bicycles off the road for their own safety.
Right. I need to make a clarification before we go much further, but on the public lands that we will take, we will not take national parks. That stays with the federal government, or wilderness areas. Those areas that are congressionally designated will stay with the federal government. Now, I did not mention monuments.
For now.
Monuments are not congressionally designated. They are just appointed there by a president, which is not according to the Constitution. They can't do that.
They've been doing it for years.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
because nobody's been standing up and saying you can't do
Well, I
that.
think they got some of them phased back a little bit. Our governor wanted monument land all from southern Oregon clear to the Columbia, you know, if she had got her way, Siskiyou and then the Malliard. Here's another thing, you know, the way they spend money? We got $1 million for our railroad here from sale. But where she sent that state policeman over to kill, what's his name?
Oh, Finnegan.
Finnegan?
Mhm.
Oh, boy, Finnegan.
She gave them $25 million just on the budget. And they raise onions over there, so they ship their onions out, and then a few other agricultural products. But we have a shipping port here. They used to have almost 300 ships. That's how her brain works.
Yeah,
You know, it's
Terrible.
it's terrible. And I don't know, you know, like that ONC, they just manage money. And then I think some of that was $8, $9, $10 million that they used to get in there so that you could for your schools and counties to run things, that they just give you a pittance, you know.
Yeah, it's just about dried up, isn't it?
Yeah.
O&C.
Yeah, and the trees are still growing, and we had the commissioners on here the day that we running for elections here soon. They said that they're wanting about anywhere from 16 to 23-inch tree,
Wow.
and because the big trees, there's nobody that can saw them anymore. You know?
Not anymore.
There's a lot of waste to it. They're set up. They get them set up, and they go through there to come out of board, you know.
Yeah.
And they don't want to change that setup very often.
Mhm.
They want to keep the maximum flow going so they
I see.
can produce as much as they can. So, anyway, I don't know where we're all going to come out of it. This sounds like this Jefferson. What would it be? What I was thinking about. Now I have farm ground, so and I have some of the tree ground, and that only you pay as you harvest. You know, you only pay a pittance all the time. You 1 year, you go 40 years, you get to harvest one if you're lucky to live to 40 years. And if you plant another one, you never see it harvested.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, a lot of kinks you'd have to work out, and you know, because we have a lot of that here. That's it's minimum amount of taxes you pay until you harvest.
Well, the idea of the state of Jefferson is less government controls and more personal freedoms for businesses to operate on. Just like our founding fathers, they wanted a small government, and they wanted freedoms to operate their businesses and grow and prosper. And that's going to be our idea in the new state government.
There's a lot of difference between the liberals and the conservatives. I know that, and the liberals seem to have us on a chokehold up there in Portland, Salem, and some of these done. I can't understand how they keep voting the same people in and then time after time again. I mean, if you was building a house, I use that all the time. If you're building a house, and in 4 years that carpenter don't have that house built, you going to hire him another 4? Well, they don't even think of it, and they don't. People don't think about the federal dollar and the state dollar. They don't make money. They have the money that you and I give them. Just like you're saying that this forest land, that belongs to you and me. It's not theirs. They're just supposed to be managing it. And damn poor management as far as
Exactly.
So that brings up another point that you talked about the people getting voting in and they don't do what they say they're going to do. So we in the new state are going to do something different. You know, I call them oath takers, politicians, anybody who swears a constitution or swears an oath to the Constitution, and but you know, we don't require them to follow I call it the owner's manual of the government, the Constitution, and we don't ask them to follow that because, well, we just haven't. So let's change that. Let's ask them to follow that. You know, the government requires you. Let's say you're going to drive a car. You have to read the owner's manual. You have to take a test on it. And you have to pass that test before you're allowed to be out on the road. I was an engineer, I had to pass a test on engineering. If you're a carpenter, you have to pass a test on the car. Everybody has to pass some sort of a test.
unless you're a dreamer.
To do your job.
Unless you're a dreamer.
Unless you're a dreamer. So let's require of our politicians the same thing. So I've asked our constitutional committee to have this requirement, and they accepted that, to have the politicians take a test on the Constitution. I don't know, we don't have to make it, we haven't determined how many. It'd probably be 25 questions. And they have to pass it at a 70% rate, or they can't take office until they do pass it. Now we're requiring them to know something about the owner's manual. And we've never done that before.
Yeah, but that might be a good deal. You know, if you go into service, you take tests and multiple
Exactly.
choice.
Sure.
You go down to the driver's license, you take a multiple choice.
Yep.
But our politicians, we don't require anything of them other than kissing babies and looking good.
We need to give them that test they give them. They say, don't stand up in court, you know. And it's not a paternity test. Well, might have to give them some of them a paternity test, the way things go in the sexual harassment. I don't know, they don't want to hold down anything to the Constitution. They just go in there and make a law, and it don't matter it don't matter if it puts everybody out of work. And they don't understand where their dollar comes from.
No, they don't.
I think they really do. They understand very well where those dollars come from because that is their livelihood. They're caring about themselves and their future retirements. That's what they care about. They don't care about you and I and the rest of the country. They've gone so bad. And I apologize for the ones who really do want to serve honorably in a political environment. There are some out there who really do want to do a good job. To those, my heart goes out. But the majority just flat, blatantly ignore the Constitution, ignore the people of the United States. They are self-serving. They take bribes. They do all these things, and they're looking out for their own future, period.
Well, you guys got a nice T-shirts on here. Maybe we should do that for congressmen or elected officials, that they wear jackets with the labels on like this, so you can see who we really support.
Yes.
Who's right.
The real ones.
The real ones.
Something that I see the politicians doing is they describe our nation as a democracy. Whoa, we are not a democracy. Everyone thinks we are, but we are not. Because why do we think we are? Because the politicians tell us we are. And the problem with a democracy is it's basically just mob rule. When our founding fathers got together, they said, we don't want that. We don't want a dictatorship or a kingdom because we've had it with those type of people. And that's what we want to get away from. So they formed a republic. They studied the Romans. They looked at what they had. They had a republic. And it worked for 500 years until they changed it away from a republic, and then they fell. So a republic is basically where we have three branches of government: the executive, the judicial, and the legislative bodies. And in each one of those, in the legislative body, we have two bodies there, bicameral system, and we have written laws, so you just can't have mob rule say what to do. So it's a rule by law rather than a rule by mob rule. And there's a difference there.
Well, we have a STEP program here, and ODF&W controls the STEP programs, how many fish you can raise. We had one, the most successful on the West Coast. We had 2 million fish. They are now releasing 600,000. And guess what? Salmon season was shut down last season.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that? Because they weren't raising fish, Mm-hmm. And they have another one up there, and they have the school kids go out there, and they show a little salmon in their hands. ODF&W does, and all this, and talking to the kids and all that. Have them come out and do fin clipping and stuff like that. And they get them convinced what they're doing is they're managing them. It's poor management.
So what are they doing with all the funds that they raise from the fishing license and so forth?
Well, you go down there and you'll see a bunch of pickups. You stopped up to the top of the hill. There was a dozen pickups in one lot. You go across the way I was the other day, there's a dozen pickups in another lot. We could, if we just done away with all the pickups, we would be a wealthy state.
There you go.
Yes. I understand policemen have to have it. They can't catch people on foot.
Yeah.
But they don't have to have a Cadillac.
No.
And these guys, they got a bunch of little cars. And you see all of them with the E license plate up there, and they're parked there all day long. I went up there and checked on it. We own a lot of cars.
They might have to go someplace.
Yeah, but they might have to go somewhere, right? And you and I, when I went to work, I had to have my own car.
Yep.
I didn't have to have somebody furnish my car with me. And it's everything. Just everything you turn in every avenue has got away from us. But the state of Jefferson might well be the answer if people will stand up and quit complaining about it, and stand up and be heard. Mm-hmm. So, you guys have been going on for how long? Have you really been going strong at this time?
About 2.5 years in Oregon.
Yeah.
California's been at it for close to 5 years almost now.
Well, I've heard about the state of Jefferson, and I understand more of it more. And there'd be a lot of things that have to do for, probably a lot of people explain it. Mm-hmm. You tried doing something, all three of us would probably have a different answer on something, you know. But if you have one person taking the bull by the horns, you get more done, sometimes.
Yeah.
If there's anybody to listen. And we have a hard time with someone listening to us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Twain had a great quote. You can fool some of the people some of the time. No, that wasn't the one.
Yeah.
Was that the one?
No, that wasn't
No,
it.
that's not the one.
Erase
Oh,
that.
it's harder to fool.
That's it. Yes. But how did we start? Now, you got me going on this. That was the second part.
Yeah, I wish I had it in front of me. That's a
too.
great quote.
It is a great quote.
But it's harder.
I'm
That's
embarrassed
wrong.
now.
Yeah.
Cut that one out.
Yeah.
So that's,
You can cut.
How much time do we have, Frank?
How much time we got, hon? 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Would that be enough time to, no, it probably wouldn't. I was going to explain the Reynolds versus Sims court case of why we have the problem today that we have. That it really goes back to that court case, the whole problem. So people now say to me, you know, we almost became a state in 1941,
yes.
which stopped this movement, December 7th, 1941, the beginning of the World War II for us, when Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. That stopped this whole process of the state of Jefferson. And they say, well, it's too bad it didn't happen back then, but I say, well, it still wouldn't change anything, because the urban population would still control the elections and legislative abilities because of the Reynolds versus Sims court case in 1964. So that needs to be explained fully of why that is a problem. That is the problem, the whole problem.
Well, I don't know, you know, that's, you can understand why they want to take all your guns, some of the things. They don't listen up there, and they don't follow the Constitution. The only one that has to follow the laws is the smaller people, the voters and the taxpayers.
Yeah.
We have to follow the law. It's made for you and me, but not for them. And you see all the dirt that's going on in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
From the FBI, CIA, and on down, and, you know, now they're after Hannity. It's just like a circus.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a witch hunt.
It's a witch hunt, and why can't we go in? I've never picked up through my life. I remember you was talking about Eisenhower. I remember Eisenhower. The biggest thing I remember about him was just talking about his golf game. He always was out playing golf. I heard a lot about that when I was a young man. And then we got there to Nixon, and of course he had a little Watergate there, you know. Little water went over the dam with him, you know.
Yeah.
And I went into the service, and there was no reason to me, when we went to Vietnam, there was no reason for that war. It really wasn't. Those people didn't know why we were there. It's the warmongers and the war machines like making that, and they're doing that again. You know, I was told the other day, and I never followed it up, but I heard that Putin or Russia was about $1.5 billion, and we're getting, what, $5, $6, $7 billion for our armed services. Not that we don't need it, but why would we be very scared of Russia if their armed services is just a few $1 billion, not even $2 billion, and we're three times better than three times that.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't understand some of the things, and we may never live long enough to understand it. I hope that people, locally, if you want to go to the meeting there, we'll repeat that again, the third Wednesday of the month, and 3rd Street, Coquille, 6 p.m. That Al Green will be having a meeting down there. His number is 541-252-2080. And be sure to get that phone fixed, because I've been trying to call it. It must have a plugged line. It must be like the computers back there.
Like I said, I'm going to get a new phone today.
They said the taxes, they had to put the deadline back a day because the computers couldn't handle it. There's probably should have used some of the computers that they're spying on us. So you know, this is all good, and I hope you guys go do well. And I was hoping this would take in Eastern Oregon and Southern Oregon too, because we're both in for God.
And we are.
We are.
Karen and I, my fiance, and we're going to be married really soon. But anyway, we are going to hitch up the travel trailer, but first we'll put in our booth. We have a booth that we have, in fact, Hal is going to make another one. We are so busy with getting out there and explaining this to the people. They know they have a lack of representation, but they just don't know what to do about it. We have the answer.
We definitely have the answer.
So we're going to hitch up the travel trailer and take the booth over to Eastern Oregon for the whole month of July. Go to 5 different events before we come home. A whole month of July. To let those people know they have hope.
There's a little park there in Sisters would be a good place to set a booth if you find out.
I know about it.
Yeah,
Yes, I have.
good spot there.
Yeah.
And then they have the fairgrounds over there in Redmond.
Yes.
So that's good times to hit them in the fairgrounds. You need a lot of people involved, and so the word gets out.
We'll have to get the word out, and that's what we're going to do.
4 million people, and a lot of them are important. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you got a lot to live down.
Yes, we do.
Well, I'm hoping you guys have a success here, and people's learned a little bit about the state of Jefferson here today with watching the show. And you can go on our website, Coos Media Center, vibit.com, and it'll be on there if you missed the show or you want to tell somebody about us. Go on our website and tell them if they don't have cable TV, they can go on the website. If they got a computer, and find us. And you guys appreciate you coming all the way over and telling the people
Glad to
how
do
it
it.
is.
Thank you, Frank, for having us.
You bet.